Chapter 3. Seeing the World. In 1917, once again, the Disneys had to move. The newspaper route wasn't bringing in enough money, so Elias decided the family should return to Chicago. There, he invested in fruit juice and jelly company. Maybe this time his luck would change. In Chicago, Walt attended McKinley High School. Once again, he was bored in all of his classes. The only thing he liked was drawing cartoons for the school newspaper. After a year, he dropped out of school. Even though he wasn't sure what he wanted to be, Walt had faith in himself. He was sure that one day he would be a big success, maybe as a newspaper cartoonist, or maybe doing something in show business. At night, he took art classes at the Chicago Academy of Fine Arts. He also bought himself a movie camera. He and a new friend, Russell Moss, had made short films together. They worked out a comedy act. But it must have been pretty bad. When the boys tried out their act in a theater, they got kicked off the stage. To support himself, Walt applied for a job with the post office. The boss said he was too young, so Walt went home, changed his clothes, put on a man's hat, and drew a mustache on his face. Then he went back to the post office, talked to the same man again, and this time he got the job. While Walt was working at the post office, two of his brothers, Herbert and Roy, were serving in the army. It was wartime, World War I. The United States had joined the fight against Germany and was sending thousands of American troops over to Europe. Walt felt as if he was missing out on all the action. To him, the war seemed like an adventure. But he was too young to enlist. Finally, he convinced his mother to sign papers to permit him to drive an ambulance. He set sail for France in November of 1918. He had not yet turned 17, but he was about to see a whole new world. The thing was, Walt never got near the battlefield. To his disappointment, the fighting had already ended by the time Walt reached France. Instead of rescuing wounded soldiers, he spent much of his time driving officers around, running errands, and drawing. He drew cartoons all over the canvas flaps of the ambulance. Walt made extra cash in a dishonest way. He and a friend found some helmets of German soldiers. They scuffed them up and shot holes in them. Then Walt's friend sold them as real war souvenirs. Walt returned home a year later in October of 1919. He was almost 18. His family hardly recognized him because he had grown so much taller. He had filled out and looked like a man. Walt was also hooked on cigarettes, a terrible habit he never quit. Elias Disney wanted his son to work in Chicago at the jelly factory, but Walt wasn't interested. Against his father's wishes, he decided to go back to Kansas City and find work as an artist. Walt Disney was ready to strike out on his own.